Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, and welcome back to my Live at 5. My name is Audra Doyle, and I'm the owner and attorney of Doyle Law here in Atlanta, Georgia. And at 5 o'clock on every day, you're going to get a video or you're going to get me live talking about immigration law. Now, you are welcome to type your questions in the comments. I will be happy to read them and answer them as I can live today. And also, if you're watching the replay, you're still able to type your question in the comments. I will still see them. So thanks everyone for joining. Now, you may have noticed the title of today's talk is First In, First Out. And we're going to talk about what does that mean for immigration, what is it supposed to mean, and also what does that mean for my office? First in, first out. What's that all about? Okay, big picture for USCIS, I think logically and fairly, the Immigration Service should follow a system called first in, first out. Whoever sends in their case first, that is the case that should be adjudicated first. So if your case was sent in last July, then your case should be the next one to be handled. And I am not seeing the system of first in, first out working with immigration. I would say over the past 8 months, it's really become noticeable that they are not doing that. So let me give you some examples. Last summer, I filed a case in June. I asked for the work card, travel permit, green card, all those things were filed. And yesterday, I got the work card approved. So from June until April, it took that client 10 months to get the case approved, okay? Now, before that, last month, I want to say March 30th, I received a different approval for an EAD that I filed 2 days before, okay? So I filed a case March 28th for a work card. It got approved on March 30th, 2 days later. Meanwhile, a case that I had filed last June has been sitting, and was not approved until this April. Clearly, they are not following the first in, first out system. I have another example for you. I filed tons of national interest waiver petitions for my clients. This is an I-140 petition. It all goes to either the Texas Service Center or the Nebraska Service Center. Well, on Monday of this week, I got 2 cases approved on the same day. That's awesome. That is awesome. The strange thing about it is, once again, first in, first out is not working. One of the cases approved that I got on Monday was filed last August. The other case that was approved on Monday was filed February. So we have one case pending from August until April, got approved on the very same day that a case I filed in February was approved. So one case took exponentially longer than the other case. Meanwhile, for both of these case types, for EADs, for NIWs, and for others, I have some that are sitting more than a year processing time, while cases that I filed later are being approved. So it's kind of like last in, first out for immigration right now. That's starting to be what it feels like. And from a fairness perspective, that just doesn't seem right. I think the clients who filed previously should get their cases handled first, and I'm sure you would all agree with that. So let's move on. Let's talk about my cases in my office. We do follow the first in, first out system. So if I have a client or multiple clients, they all want to file I-130 petitions for their family members, and I have several lined up right now. Guess which case is going to get finished first? It's the case where I have all the documents. So if I have multiple clients, they all hire me on the same day. One client gives me their documents on Thursday. One client gives me their documents on Friday. The client who gave me the documents first is the first one that I've received all the materials, and that's the case we're going to start processing first. The next client who sends in the documents second, they go second. Client after that, they send in their documents third, they're going to go third. So we do have a queue in our office. And the queue is whoever sends in the documents first, that client needs to have their case prepared first. and so on and so forth. That's the fair thing to do. That is the way that it should work. And I think all of my clients watching would agree, whoever has their stuff in, that's the next case that we need to be working on. We're not going to put aside a case that we already have the documents on when a new case comes in the door. We're going to finish up case A, move on to case B, move on to case C. That's the way that it will be done. Hello, Stephen. Thanks for joining. Good evening. How can someone know when their case is being handled? What state? Okay, for my clients, they will know that the case is being handled because we're going to start talking with the client about the cases. So we try to communicate throughout the process. And that's what happens in my firm. As far as immigration, sometimes there will be a notice online when you type in the case number, and it will say case is being actively reviewed. That's a new status that's come up in the last year. I've never seen it before the past 12 months. Amadou, you are so welcome. I saw you. Great to have you here today. Amadou says, thanks for everything. So, Stephen, for immigration, you might know the case is being handled because it has that status that says case is being actively reviewed. And what I think that means is that the case file is not in the file room. It is in with an officer at the officer's desk. And these days they're trying to be more electronic, so that means it's in the queue on the officer's computer. That's what I think it means. Now, as far as what state, not sure what you mean by that, so definitely type in more information. Give me some clarity, and I'll try to answer that question as well. So the last place where I noticed the first in, first out system is actually down at the field office where I go with my clients for their interviews. And this is something that over my career, now it's 14 and a half years in this career, I've watched this field office do all kinds of things with how they're going to handle the case files for the day. So let me give you some examples of the way it has worked in the past and what I know is happening now. Oh, Stephen responded and said, what field office? Okay, so Stephen, for your case, if you're filing a family-based petition, you know that you're going to have an interview in the United States. The field office that has jurisdiction is where your case will be handled, most likely. First, it's going to be at the MSC, which is the Missouri Service Center. We also call it the National Benefit Center. Then those cases are farmed out to all the different field offices. Now, the last thing is there are a few clients where I'm not exactly sure which field office is going to pick up their case because they're 2 hours away from multiple field offices. So I'm thinking of one client in particular. I can't really figure out where the case is going to go. So when it gets closer to time, I'm going to have to do some research to decide that. The last thing to know is if you're filing an employment-based petition, it's easier to tell because the first 3 letters of the receipt number tell you the name of the service center that has the case in a lot of instances. So for example, if it says SRC, the case is in Texas Service Center. If it says EAC, that means that the case is in Vermont. So there are 4 major service centers in the United States: California, Texas, Vermont, Nebraska. Then we have all the field offices. We have the National Benefit Center. We have the Potomac Service Center. So many places that cases go. All right, now last information about first in, first out is about this local field office. When they have a list of customers coming in on a certain day, how do they decide who is next? Currently at Atlanta field office, the officers do not know which case they're going to get next. So what I think is happening is that they'll sit down at the desk, they will finish a case, and then they'll click a link that says, I'm ready for the next case, and boom, they will see at that moment who it's going to be. And so a computer system is telling them this case, next case, next case, and I do believe the computer is going first in, first out. Stephen says, what does IOE mean? That means the case was filed online, and it could be located at the Potomac Service Center, or you could check and see for which field office it's going to go to. So for example, if you filed a naturalization case online and it says N400, you have a receipt number that says IOE, The field office where you have your interview is the place where I would go to track my processing times. That's the one I would look up. Akif, please tell me the process for an F2B category. Child is out of status, 35, not married, the father has a green card. How can the father sponsor? The father can sponsor half the case. The father can do the I-130 petition. The problem, Akif, is that the child cannot get a green card without a waiver because they are out of status. And you have to be maintaining your lawful status throughout the process until you are able to apply for the green card. So you have a problem where you can only get half of the case done. Yes, the father can file the I-130 petition, but no, without doing more, the child will not be able to receive the green card. So that is the answer. Muhammad has a question. He says, my visa application, ooh, yikes, has administrative processing, DS 5535, travel history, could you solve? Unfortunately, once it goes into administrative processing, it is extremely difficult to get it out. Some immigration lawyers, myself included, we call it the black hole, which once it goes in there, it is so hard to get it out. So that's not a case that I want to take on. But if you would like, you can call the office or send us an email. And if you go to my Facebook page, you will see all of our contact information. We will see if there is a referral we can give you for another attorney who might be interested in the case. Let's see. Okay, so finishing up with first in, first out. Currently, I think a computer just spits out the next name that checked in. That's how the officer knows who they're going to be calling. And the officer will find that out at the very moment they're ready to touch the case. In the old days, sometimes immigration would give the officer a stack of files. They'll say, like, you've got 10 cases for today. And the officer might start with the thinnest file and work their way up to the biggest file. It really did happen that way sometimes. Sometimes immigration officers would be able to go to the file room. They're supposed to pull the next case off the top, but sometimes that didn't happen. So I think the computer generated appointment for the officer to see, like, okay, click the button. I'm going to have this person next. That is very fair. So as an immigration lawyer, as an American, I really believe in fairness, even down to this level. For my clients where I filed an application for them last summer, and I'm watching my fresh applications get approved before those old ones, I don't think that's right. And I think you agree with me. That doesn't sound right. Don't you think the person with the oldest case should have a chance to go first? That's all I'm saying. And the system's called first in, first out. I hope that immigration will start implementing that first in, first out system for all of its cases at the service center. Okay, so I think that is it. Thank you so much to everyone who has been watching. Now, if you want more immigration talk, I do it here live on Facebook, so definitely hit follow and definitely make sure that you're getting notifications when I go live. Also, I go live on TikTok every day, so you can find me over there. Look up Doyle Law Immigration. You're going to find me on TikTok. Follow, make sure that you get updates, and you'll see when I'm going live. So Akif, we're going to do your question last. Can you elaborate? What are the best options for the child who is out of status? Akif, that is a tough question. One option may be to look and see, does the child have an immediate relative that can sponsor them rather than, I believe, their father sponsoring them who only has a green card. And the other option is to look and see if they're qualified for something else besides a family-based immigrant case. We would still have to look and see how we can overcome this being out of status problem, and a waiver may be required. Look up waiver for immigration. There are several waivers that may be available for this person. But without knowing more facts, without having the consultation, that's about as far as I can go with giving information. Muhammad says, what about my case? It is hard. Hello, Muhammad. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Muhammad. My advice was that you need to talk to a lawyer who is interested in doing an administrative processing appeal or a lawsuit for you of some sort to get the case out of administrative processing at the embassy. So if you would like a referral, you're welcome to contact the office. So that's not a case that I want to take on. And the reason why is I cannot guarantee a good result. Other lawyers may be willing to take more of a risk. I think I've already said that in this talk. Yes, I'm a safety first kind of lawyer. I do believe in fairness for my clients, and I think that things should go in an orderly manner. And I would love for immigration to keep things in an orderly manner as well. Thank you all for watching. I will be back live again probably tomorrow at 5:05. So definitely give us a follow, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Bye, everyone.